from 4 organisations, from Ministry of Health in particular, who have been very key to conducting this research. In fact, we've led the research at Africa University and University of Zimbabwe. The study objective was to focus on to test whether mother support groups based at health facilities increase retention of HIV-exposed infants and their mothers in PMTCT programs. Now, when we listen to PMTCT presentations, we hear a lot about ART initiation, but we don't hear a great deal about ART retention and about HIV-free survival of infants and children. And we need to put children at the centre of our programme. Word about mother support groups. Some countries have some mother support groups established at clinics. Some of these, like Nadia's just described, employ mentor mothers, and they provide incentives. Some of them provide incentives for attending mothers. Mother support groups haven't been adopted by ministries of health nationally in PMTCT programs. And maybe part of the reason for that is that there isn't any strong evidence to show that MSGs do increase retention in PMTCT programs. There hasn't been a randomized controlled trial of these until this study. So in 2013, as part of the Inspire initiative, we conducted formative research, a couple of pieces, but one piece was on the design of mother support groups. Led to us designing a group which met every 2 weeks at the clinics, was administered by a trained volunteer coordinator, very similar to the mother mentors that Nadia described, that involved nurses as resource persons, and that had a strong emphasis on retention in particular, but also psychosocial support and education. The program was deliberately designed not to provide incentives, transport, refreshments, nutritional support materials to the mothers attending these groups. The reason for this was, could we design a sustainable and replicable model that might be replicated to Zimbabwe's 1,600 health facilities? The other formative research that we conducted was on the scale of and the reasons for non-retention or loss to follow-up. So the mother support groups were not existing prior to this piece of research. They were established in 2014, some of them in 2015. And the sites were 30 rural health clinics in 2 districts. And these were randomized into standard of care or intervention arms. It's important to put an emphasis on the rural aspect. I think we heard something about key populations. Well, one of the key populations are the extremely poor and the deep rural populations. And they don't always get a lot of attention. So we wanted to see whether the program would work, the model would work, in some of the most impoverished environments. The enrollment of these mothers started in 2014 and finished a year later, enrolled 394 HIV-positive mothers who were less than 35 weeks gestation attending antenatal care. And the intention is to follow them up to 12 months postnatal. Here's a flowchart of the numbers. Some 980 HIV-positive pregnant women in those 30 clinics, 634 who were eligible for the study, 394 consented and were enrolled. By 31st of October, there were 279 deliveries, and there are 92, you can't see it at the bottom, there are 92 mothers who are at least 6 months postnatal, and we'll be presenting some preliminary data on those mothers in a moment. The mother support groups, the mothers join the groups soon after booking. The meetings are every 2 weeks. The groups are led by volunteer coordinators. Health information is provided by nurses from the clinics. Here are the characteristics of the mothers from a sample of 51 of these mothers. Age, well, 18 to 24. 18 years we had as a condition for the study. We didn't take younger mothers into the study. Education, most of the mothers had completed or partially completed secondary education. Religion, over half of these mothers came from apostolic or Zionist sects, which are not renowned for their involvement or engagement with the health sector. Distance from the clinic, well, over half the mothers had an hour or two to travel by walking to the clinics. Interesting. The MSG topics, don't know what's happened to that slide. It was different when I wrote it. The mother support groups function on a 4-month cycle. The topics that are included in the mother support groups. So every 2 weeks, these topics are done. A mother may join the group at any time during the cycle. If she books in the first or early second trimester, she might go through this cycle 3 times. So it's possible that she could have the topics repeated 3 times in a year, because she leaves the group 6 months postnatal. However, most mothers don't attend every 2 weeks. Mothers graduate after 6 months postnatally, and they receive a certificate of graduation, and they often have a bouncing HIV negative baby as well. As Nadia said, the certificate is a strong incentive. It's probably the only incentive that we give to the mothers, but they really appreciate that. Retention activities in the mother support groups. The mothers receive a reminder before each MSG meeting on an SMS. 75% of the mothers have got a phone. Non-attenders are contacted after missing an MSG meeting. If a mother misses meetings, then the coordinator informs the sister of non-attenders, and this activates home visits by village health workers. Retention is also stressed at every meeting. Retention in the antenatal care or in the postnatal care program. Nelson Mandela wrote a book called A Long Walk to Freedom. I think that our team leader, Nigel Rollins, who's based in Geneva, could after this write another book called The Long Walk to Defining Retention. WHO had a meeting 4 years ago called Retention in HIV Programs, defining the challenges and identifying solutions. Unfortunately, it did neither of those regarding retention. It didn't come up with a definition for retention. Earlier this year, WHO did come out with a definition, which was when a patient enrolled in HIV care routinely attends these services as appropriate to the need. Although that's a definition, it's not a very useful definition. It actually doesn't define, really, does it? It just describes. Our first speaker said that he needed help as a national program manager. He needed help in measuring retention and defining loss to follow and defining procedures of what to do. So all of the Inspire projects, all of them are focused on retention. Each of them has a different definition of retention. I'll give you ours. We defined retained in care as attending in month 11 or 12. If you retained at 1 year in care, you attended in month exposed baby attended in month 11 or 12. If she didn't attend in month 11 or 12, she was not retained in care. I hear you, some of you saying, well, yeah, but if you're retained in care in month 11 or 12, so what happened in the previous 10 months? So we subdivided this into fully retained in care. A mother attends at least once every 2 months. or partially attending care, so she missed some 2-month periods. Why did we choose 2 months? We chose 2 months because in Zimbabwe, drugs are normally given for 2 months. So if you've not been for 2 months, there's a likelihood that you are not maintaining your ARVs. This is the data of 93 mothers who reached 6 months postnatal. And this is retention data, not on postnatal retention. This is retention in the mother support groups. We're using the same style, the same definitions to apply these to mother support groups. Attendance at mother support groups may be an indicator of attendance in postnatal care. We won't know that until we unpack the results at the end of 2016. But this is serves as a proxy, and maybe we think that a mother's more likely to be retained in postnatal care than to be retained in mother support groups. We don't know, but we're just surmising that might be true. So full 6-month retention, a mother who attends in month 5 or 6 and has been attending in month 1, 2, and month 1, 3, 4. If she's attended in month 5 or 6 but hasn't been in the previous 2 months sessions, then she's partially retained. If she didn't attend in month 5 or 6, but attended other mother support groups, then she's partially retained. And if she's never attended any previous MSG meeting, she's not retained. So those were the figures that we have at the moment. About 63% at the moment who are fully retained or partially retained. MSG attendance rates by clinics differed. Some clinics had 80% antenatal care MSG attendance and postnatal care attendance. Some had around 20%. Antenatal care attendance was slightly higher at MSGs than postnatal care. When we looked at the clinic size, we found that the larger clinics, the busier clinics, were the ones which had the least retention. We've got some ideas about that, but we don't know for sure why that is. Finally, there were lots of reasons that mothers gave for not attending MSGs regularly, which the most common were funeral and sickness in the family, and the long distance to the clinic, or having just delivered. So the completion of the study, so this is the last slide. Completion of the study next year, we will examine whether postnatal care retention rates are higher at 15 clinics with MSGs compared to 15 clinics with standard care. So we want to put babies at the centre of the prevention of mother-to-child transmission. And so the exposed babies of Zimbabwe would like to thank their mothers, they'd like to thank the volunteers, they'd like to thank their healthcare workers, and they'd like to thank the researchers and the funders. Thank you.